Special guest joining us right now, Mr. Harish Salve. Thank you so much for speaking to us here on Mirror Now. Mr. Salve, we know where you stand as far as the legal debate on the constitutionality of the Citizenship Amendment law is concerned. But today we are looking at a second part of this problem, where a big face-off is brewing with more and more state governments saying that they will not implement it at all. Punjab is saying this, West Bengal, Kerala. Is that even possible that a state can block a central law?
Tanvi, first of all, let's understand what the states mean by saying we will not implement this law. This law is the Citizenship Amendment Act. Let's put the amendments to one side. The Citizenship Act 1955 is being implemented, and that's what the National Register is all about. If you implement the National Register without this law, all illegal migrants will have to be removed, including those illegal migrants who may be Sikh, who may be Christian, and so on. If this law is implemented, you will only limit the operation of the National Register to the communities not covered by this law, and let's name it. You will therefore limit it to Muslims who have migrated from across the border. So when the states say we will not implement this law is, for example, the state of Punjab saying that any Sikhs who have migrated from Pakistan on account of persecution of the Sikhs will be sent back to Pakistan. I really don't understand this. Is the state of West Bengal saying any Bengali Hindus who have migrated from Bangladesh because of their not being able to practice their religion of Hinduism, or any Catholics or Christians who have migrated from Bangladesh or who migrated from Pakistan and are settled in different parts of India say, look, we are a minority there, we are a minority here, you treat your minorities well, please allow us to live here. You will throw them out. So that is what you mean by saying I will not implement the Citizenship Amendment Act.
Okay.
Really, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What you're saying is I don't want to implement the National Citizenship Register.
Correct.
And that's an old controversy. That's not a new controversy. This act, in fact, opens the door for some people to stay back. What you're really saying is if you're going to start removing Muslims, you're going to start doing that by applying the 1955 Citizenship Act, not by this law. Should you do that or should you not do that is something which has been debated till the cows go home. The Supreme Court has asked the government to implement the National Citizenship Register. And you've seen the counter concerns which the northeastern states have about their demography being affected. So I have not understood why students are protesting the amendment to the law.
Okay, let's take it. So let's take it point by point, Mr. Salve. The first aspect, and like you said, before this Citizenship Amendment Act gets implemented, there has to be a larger exercise of a national NRC which needs to be done. Now, for example, yes.
Let me clarify.
Yes.
In implementing the National Citizenship Register, you will now be more relaxed. You will, if there is a Sikh in Punjab who has crossed the border and come in, and he says, yes, I have crossed the border, you will not send him back. Earlier, you would have had to send him back.
Correct.
If there is a Bengali in Bengal or in Assam who says, I'm a Hindu, our group has come in because we were living in this village and we were being treated badly, we have migrated, whatever. They say we want to be in India. You will say, fine, we will not send you back. So what you're going to do by this law is there'll be some people whom you won't be sending back. This law will not result in sending anybody out. So let's not say implement this law. If the states are literally, if the states say we will not implement this law, then what they are really saying is, along with the Muslim migrants, we will throw out all other community migrants also, which is more draconian.
Yes, well, essentially what they, one would assume they mean is that they're not going to bring in the NRC at all. Well, to begin with, let's talk about West Bengal, where Mamata Banerjee says, Mr. Salve.
Let's put this law to one side. Mamata Banerjee from day one has been saying, we will not allow you to run the NRC in Bengal. Fair enough. I understand that. I may not agree with it, but I understand that. Why are we talking about this law?
Can she block the National Population Register work? Essentially, does a state have a power to block implementation of any of this, whether it's the NPR, the NRC, or the CAA?
as a matter of constitutional law, the executive power of a state is limited to areas over which the state has legislative competence. And the state has no legislative competence on the matter of citizenship or migration. Even in the United States, which is a complete federation, migration is something which the federal government deals with. In India, it's the union government which deals with migration. So if a state says, I will not allow you to work the migration law, tomorrow a state can as well say, so-and-so is being accused of terrorism, I will not allow you to arrest him. Or the union government says, I want to post the CRPF in your state at the border. They'll say, the border is along my state, I will not allow CRPF to be voted. I mean, then it's anarchy.
Yes. Okay. So does it open grounds? Does it lay grounds for a possible dismissal of the state government? Is that possible?
I don't think it should reach that stage. The union government has all the muscle to implement its law.
Okay. I'm also trying to understand how does this work? Essentially, between the NRC and the Citizenship Amendment, if you look at some of these illegal immigrants, the ones who are eligible under the new law, once I am a citizen of this country, Mr. Salve, I am free to travel where I want. I am free to live where I want and work anywhere I want. So how does it work for exemption for the northeastern states? How does it work if a Maharashtra or a West Bengal or a Punjab says, no, I will not allow this?
That's why I'm saying, let me clarify. That it is exactly for this reason that migration and citizenship are dealt with the union government, not by the state governments. So if the migration is purely a matter to be dealt with by the union government is the one who decides if a non-citizen is to be allowed to be naturalized and be made a citizen of India. It's as straightforward as that. Once you are naturalized and given the rights of a citizen, then under the constitution, you have a right to go anywhere and you have a right to stay in any part of India. And what you raised is a very important point. Suppose tomorrow some other state says, I don't care if the union government has allowed Sikhs to become citizens. I will not recognize their citizenship. I will throw them out. Can they ever do it? What will happen? Tomorrow, suppose a state says, I don't recognize these. I will not implement the Citizenship Amendment Act. If Kerala says Catholics who have crossed over and who now want to go and settle down in Kerala because there's a large Christian community in Kerala will not be allowed to live in Kerala because we don't recognize their citizenship because their citizenship is because of this law. Can they be allowed to do that? Can you throw a citizen out of your state on the ground that you don't think he was given citizenship on the wrong grounds, on the right ground?
Correct.
Tomorrow, if somebody is given asylum, a state will say, why did you give him asylum? I think your reasons were wrong. I will not accept his asylum.
Correct.
So where are we going with all this?
You raise the issue of why there are protests happening right now. Why are the youngsters protesting? We counted about 22 universities across at least 15 to 18 cities yesterday and today, Mr. Salve, have seen these protests. There is some kind of anger, discontent, outrage over the law that has been brought in, or perhaps it's a build-up of several other actions of the government. Do you believe that all of them are genuinely simply misled or ignorant about what the true law is?
Tanvi, sitting at this distance across the continents, I don't want to comment on what has happened. I have always had a very dim view of these kind of protests. I have seen some emails which I have received suggesting I lack a conscience, which maybe I do. I don't challenge that. Saying that I lack a conscience because I'm not supporting their opposition to the Citizenship Amendment Bill. So people in India now have a feeling that it is their opinion which is right and anybody who doesn't accept their opinion is wrong. Those people who are most vocal protagonists of freedom of speech, of liberalism, and of freedom of thought are themselves of the view that anybody who doesn't agree with them lacks a conscience.
Yes.
So this is the kind of situation we are in.
Well, that's actually, I agree with you totally. And I think it goes for both sides. Both sides have become so intolerant, to the view from the other end, that it's so easy in India today to get labeled one or the other if you simply ask a question. But so let me put it in simpler words. Most experts who defend the law, and I've heard what you've had to say on this, say because this is only about 3 nations and the minorities in those 3 nations. So how can we say that this is anti-Muslim or discriminatory against any religion? Now, those who are concerned say if you look at the larger NRC, it will help identify all illegal immigrants across the country. And then the government will say, well, 6 of those religions from 3 of those countries are protected, the rest are not. In a sense, does that not sound discriminatory if we link the both and then see what the impact is?
Because there's a reason why we are allowing them. There is a ethnic and a historical connection between the people who live in those 3 countries and the people who live in India. The pre-British India and the British India covered Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So they are all, in one sense, they are all Indians. Now, they are now part of independent states, but that state has now a state religion. So we are saying, and that day I saw Arnab Goswami, he read a letter which had been written by Manmohan Singh ji saying that minorities in these 3 countries are being treated very badly. If we recognize that and grant limited relief to minorities, I can understand people saying, all right, we are now running a movement that the government must also allow some other oppressed section from some other country to come in.
Correct.
I can understand that movement. But to say I will burn buses and I will set fire to people and I will close universities if you implement this law, then basically what you're telling the government is throw everybody out, not just illegal Muslim migrants from neighboring countries.
Well, essentially, the Northeast is saying that. Rest of the country is not saying that. So there is actually a very big disconnect there. And I don't think either of the 2 sides are realizing that while they seem to be fighting the government together, they have very different views on it. Mr. Salve, yes, if I can just... I completely agree with you. Now, if I can just move away from this big conversation that I know I asked you to join us for, and just ask you about 2 other big things that we're looking at today. After the state of Andhra Pradesh passed the Disha Act that promises to finish a investigation into crimes against women in rape cases within 7 days and finish the trial within 21 days, there are at least 4 more states who are looking at a similar law. Is this even a practical, workable law?
Let me tell you, Tanvi, the problem. My late guru, one of the greatest jurists ever, Mr. Palkewala, used to say, India is a land of gestures. Every time we see a problem, we want a law to be made. It is the job of the police to protect girls on the streets. It is the job of our law enforcement mechanism to have a system in place by which people's security is kept in view. I will now publicly disclose something which I haven't done so far. In the previous government, Reliance Jio had offered that if you allow us to put up sufficient number of poles for our 4G, we will give you CCTV facilities, which we will not look at. It will go straight to the police headquarters and the police can monitor virtually the whole city. I believe, and you can check this as a journalist, the noting on file was, A, it will give control to a private agency, which was something which could have been addressed technically. B, I believe the reason was they said we have more than enough CCTVs in Delhi. Now, if this is the kind of mindset we have, we are not willing to protect our women folk when they walk the streets. The police lacks investigative skills. The police lacks the equipment it would need for a fast investigation. It's like saying I have a system which is creaking, but I want to put high octane in it and push the pedal down. The system will collapse. So you will have more Andhra-like incidents. I don't know whether the incident was right or wrong, but what will then happen is that if the police has 7 days, they will catch someone. And that person will be produced. And that person will be lynched.
Or shot.
In the media. Because our media convicts people even before a charge sheet is filed. And that person doesn't have a hope in hell of a defense. And the law will be completely miscarried. So why do we need a legislation? This is purely saying that the police must act with alacrity. Why are they not able to act with alacrity? Is there a law which says you will slow down investigation that you're doing away with? This is so ridiculous. Do we need a law saying you must give oxygen to somebody in a hospital who's gasping for breath? We need a law for that. So I think these laws are all gestures. They are meant to blow smoke in people's eyes. Why are we not addressing the real problem? Why is our police in such a difficult position that they are unable to function? Let us talk about that.
Correct.
Why are our magistrates not able to dispense justice? Why must an Indian magistrate hear 60 cases a day?
Correct.
Are we willing to talk about that? No. All you're saying is some other case must get priority. So, all right, a rape case will get a priority. Somebody who's a desperado, somebody who's a murderer, his case will linger. Then he will come back to court and say, I've been inside jail for so many days, my trial has not begun. He will be enlarged on bail.
Correct. Well, it's just convenient to not talk about the real issues, which could be the overworked and under supported police or even the short-staffed judiciary. But since you said, this country believes in symbolism and believes in some gestures, Mr. Salve, it's been 7 years and Nirbhaya's rapists are still alive. Now, what justice and what faith can we have in the judicial system if this is what happens?
Please find out why it took 7 years for the case to get disposed of. Let's look at that. It's no use making a law which will say dispose of the case in 3 months.
Correct.
That case will still remain for 7 years and the law will be violated.
So how do we change that, where public prosecutors are not turning up, judges are not there in the fast-track courts, wherever the fast-track courts are?
Have you seen how much we pay our public prosecutors?
Right.
Have you seen how little we train our public prosecutors? There are some very good lawyers who are public prosecutors. I'm not condemning them as a community. Why does a public prosecutor not turn up? Is there any accountability? Who has asked questions? Who monitors? The Supreme Court had said, let's create a department of prosecution like you have in other countries. The public prosecutor must be a separate department, separated from the system and working under a director of prosecutions. How many states have implemented that? 0.
All right. Harish Salve, I know what you're saying, and I think this is a larger conversation that I would love to have with you someday on how do we bring about these changes in the police force and the judiciary. But thank you so much for joining us here on Mirror Now and speaking to our viewers. Thank you.